Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 49th day of my 50 Days to 50 conversation. I kind of can't believe I am this close to wrapped up. And as I have been saying, every post of the past 49 days, this is the day where you are finally going to get to meet the woman who inspired this entire project. So I'm just going to bring her on immediately. My friend, Rashmir. Hello, Rashmir.
Hello, Dana.
Thank you so much for being so willing to join me, and then all of the 47 back and forths that we had around finding a schedule and shifting our time and going early and all these kinds of things. You have been incredibly gracious with me, so I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for asking me to do this. I'm so excited by the project.
Well, it has been really transformational, but I want to start by asking you, how has your project been transformational for you? And maybe just give some quick context for your 50 project.
Sure. So I'm wishing I'd spoken to you before I announced mine, because I think you've been much smarter about yours. But the background is, so I turned 50 about 3.5 months ago. And in the run up to that, also wanting to do something to celebrate the 50th and mark it in some kind of special way. What I decided to do was to give away 50 places to women that are doing really amazing things in the world, change makers, social entrepreneurs. And so in one of my programs, which is quite a deep transformational program. And so I have been busily recruiting people, and it's frankly, I'm still trying to find the right people for the program, because wow, 50 sort of world-changing women is a tall order.
Isn't it incredible? When I started this, I thought, oh, it'll be a piece of cake. By about day 27, I thought, oh my gosh, I have a long way to go.
Gosh, well, you've done amazingly, because I mean, you're almost done, and I've listened to several of the recordings, and they're great. There's all kinds of wonderful wisdoms that have been shared. So I am still in terms of mine. I mean, lots of lessons learned. One is to give myself more runway, more time, because I have a tendency to jump in when I have a bright idea and run with it, and then I learn through the doing that, oh, okay, I probably should have thought about this and planned this, and this would have been a smarter way to do it. So I've learned a ton, and I've gotten to meet some incredible women, actually. So it's really going to be something that rolls out over the course of 2023. So I've still got a ways to go with mine.
Well, it was just, when I read that email and learned what you were doing, as I said, I had also been thinking I'd like to do something, but I really couldn't quite settle on what I wanted. And in 1 second reading your email, I thought, oh, that's it. That's it. I want to have 50 conversations with 50 interesting people, some of whom I have known all my life, some of whom are brand new to me. And it really has been a gift. So thank you for being the impetus for this whole project, because I don't think I would have settled on this without your email. So I am so appreciative of that.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad it inspired this. And in turn, you've inspired me, because it's made me think, well, I do know so many incredible people. Why am I not interviewing them or bringing them, into my work in more powerful ways? So yes, mutual inspiration, I think, going on.
Excellent. I love that. Well, Rashmir, let's get to the 3 questions, because I know you're going to have great answers. So the first question is, what are one or two things that you knew before you turned 50 that have served you well in these 3 months of 50?
Well, yeah, 3.5 months is not a long time. But one of the things is something I learned from the first ever coach that I worked with. And it was this idea of following your excitement. First of all, paying attention to what excites you, right? What lights you up and gives you energy. And then following that, seeing where that leads you. And I've been doing that actually this last 3.5 months with some things that just came up unexpectedly that I didn't really have the time to do, but something was saying, there's something here, go with it. This is really exciting. And it's really paid off in some regards, because I'm just loving the people that I've been meeting through it. And I'm growing, I'm getting bolder through connection with some of these folks. So follow your excitement is really, I think, the the biggest thing. And then I suppose connected to that, Dana, is this idea of you don't have to have everything figured out. You know, a little bit like my my turning 50 project. Maybe a little more planning would have been useful in that case, but at the same time, you learn so much by doing. And sometimes when you take that first step, the next step becomes clearer than it otherwise would have. And both of those I've definitely seen play out over the last 3.5 months. And I think are going to play out quite a lot for me in 2023 as well.
Oh, I love both of those things. And you're so right. We can plan something. We can plan the life out of something before it's even taken root. I am like you. There's often a moment where I think, huh, should have maybe taken just one more second before I took the leap. But ultimately, you're learning as you're falling or as you're moving forward. So it all kind of comes out in the wash.
It does, exactly.
Okay. Next question is what are some things you wish you could go back and tell your younger self that you know now, and put your younger self wherever you want to on your first 50 years?
Yeah, you know, this one's a tough one for me because there's so many things, right? I would go back and tell my younger selves. But if I had to pick just a couple, I mean, I think the first is have more fun. You know, I've spent so much of my life being so serious, and you know, and I don't know why. You know, well, I do know why. I could go into the reasons why, but it would have been. I suppose maybe it wouldn't just be saying have more fun. It would be giving her permission to have more fun. You know, to take life and self a little less seriously, take other people a little less seriously, right? Because that's often what dampens down our enthusiasm and our natural playfulness and energy. So that for me is the really big one. I echo so much of what others have said around worrying less about what people think. And I think the joy of being older is we care less. So that one just sort of naturally falls away. But if we can get it a little earlier in life, I think that would be so good. And then the final one really is be bolder. And I think that's connected to the other two, right? Have more fun, worry less about what other people follow your excitement. It comes back to that, because if you're doing all of those things, it's going to be much easier to just be bolder in life.
Ah, I love that. More fun, worry less, be bolder. Those are just, I think, three great calls to action that really, even if you say, all right, I'm going to be 1% more or less of these things, over time, you will start to see that really pay dividends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
1%, just 1% a little more every day or every week, right? It would
Yeah.
really pay off. I love that. In fact, yeah, I made a note of the 1%. That's a reminder to myself every day now.
Well, I mean, I think another thing that we so often do is we sort of come up with this thing. So we say, I'm going to have more fun. And we say, well, if I don't have like 90% more fun, or if I don't become a completely different person, then it's a fail. When in actuality, if you had 1% more fun, that's still more fun.
It's still more
So
fun.
I am trying always, and I don't often succeed, but I'm trying always to remember that small steps are still valuable, successful movement.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
all or nothing. It's those little incremental changes. So
Yeah.
I met you across Zoom last January 1st because you offered this course, and I felt such an immediate affinity for you, Rashmir, because you have such a really spectacular energy. And
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
fascinated to hear you say that that you feel you could be more bold and have more fun, because those are not things I would have said about you. You strike me as terrifically fun and as
Oh,
incredibly confident. So it's some of what has been so interesting about these conversations is just we all have perceptions of who we think is on the other side of the conversation. And sometimes they reveal an inner monologue to us, which does not at all reflect the way we perceive them. And that's such a good reminder that we all struggle with things, and be
exactly.
an important, I think, barometer of just figure out what side of the mirror are you looking at yourself from. Is it your internal mirror or
Mm.
your external mirror, and which one is serving you?
I love that. That's a beautiful way of putting it. And I would add to that, in different situations and in different contexts, right? Because
Yeah.
can we show up bold and fun in all of the areas of our lives? And
Mm,
that's, that I think becomes easier again as we get older. It just becomes, we become more whole, more integrated.
yeah.
And I think we feel the disconnect more when we're
Mm.
not being true to who we are in different situations. But yeah, for me, I mean, there's definitely areas of my life in the past, Dana, and I imagine this may be true for you, where I've been fun, I've been bold, and then other areas where I've been completely the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
those are the
yeah,
ones
yeah,
I
yeah.
think a
You
little
can't
bit
be
about.
fun and bold absolutely everywhere. Yeah.
Well, maybe one day.
Okay, last question. We maybe, maybe. Last question. In these last 3.5 months, Rashmir, what have been some of the
Yeah.
most joyful aspects that you have seen or recognized in these few short months of 50?
Yeah, it's funny. It's because it's not a long time, and yet I have two very clear answers for you. The first is reconnecting with friends, old and new. And part of it is,
Mm,
just having turned 50, a lot of my older friends from university, from school, have all turned 50 as well. And so there's been something really wonderful about reconnecting with people at this phase of life because everyone's quite reflective. And
yes.
so I've loved the conversations I've been having and catching up with people. That's just been so fun. And then older friends from other parts of my life who haven't turned 50 have also somehow showed up in my life again. And I've just really loved that because you can see how relationships come full circle, or you
Yeah.
reconnect with people, but you've both evolved and changed in some ways, and yet you can pick up where you left
Mm,
off. And that's just been such a joy for me. The other thing I think, and it's funny because it's only been 3.5 months, and yet it's turning 50, Dana, for me was the first birthday where I've actually felt different after,
oh,
the day after. Like that's never happened to me ever before. And felt different in a good way. And one of the things related to that is just being clearer about what I want and my choices. And I love what I do, right? I get to coach people who are making a difference in the world. But more and more, I'm being super intentional about choosing who I work with and choosing to work with people that inspire me and that who I learn from. And what a gift at this
mm.
age to be able to say, I absolutely love what I do. And I can see that I'm going to be loving it more and more from as the years go by.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but for me, the most revealing through line of these conversations relates to that a little bit, and it's just this idea that this decade that you are barely into, and which I am staring at the precipice of, is such a profoundly creative, fulfilling, rich decade because everything kind of has finally fallen into place and we are striding in a different way than we ever have been able to. And that is that's thrilling to me. I was not looking at 50 with a from a place of dread, but I also
Mm.
wasn't looking at it from a place of um like activity being fully alive. And that has been just incredibly inspiring to me. And so I look forward to you and I staying in touch and seeing really what these next years bring for us with these sort of personal mandates of just be here, be present, take up the space that you need to, be with people who you
Yeah.
want to be with, and do the work that's meaningful.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I'm super excited for you actually, because I think there's some overlaps in our work. And so I'm excited to
I
see
think
how
there is
yours,
too.
yeah, how yours evolves as well. And see how we continue to learn from each other as our work evolves. But it is interesting, isn't it? I wonder, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's too early to ask you this question, But I'm curious if you've seen a difference in between men and women around
Mm,
these topics, because for me there's something about women really coming into their own as they get older,
mm.
and I don't know if that's
I do
different,
think
yeah, for
I
men.
do think that's true. It's interesting if I think back on the men that I talked to. I can't tell you what number of men and women it was. I haven't looked at that. I'll do that for tomorrow. But almost all of the men that I talked to find themselves in the arts world. They're highly creative, artistic people, either by profession or by passion. And so I didn't really talk to a lot of typical businessmen or people who would, I think, define societally as a very traditional man. Not to say that the men I talked to aren't that, because they are, but I probably didn't get a broad enough spectrum of a lot of kinds of men to be able to say to you, boy, I was shocked at how many men said, oh, 50 was just a continuation of 40. And all the women said it was a fruitful time. It was actually, as I would say, as many men as women commented on how vital they felt and how much vitality they felt in their in the decade between 50 and 60.
That's really interesting, huh?
Yeah. Probably not surprising, since my whole existence is so heavily arts influenced, that it's funny, you reach out to sort of usual suspects and unusual suspects, and then you discover that even your unusual suspects kind of fall into the usual suspect definition. So, yeah, that's I would not have thought to look back sort of at the types of people I spoke to, but I'm gonna do that before tomorrow, because that'll be interesting for me just to sort of come up with a quick assessment. I just wanna share with you something, Rashmir, that
Mm.
I learned from you, that I'd forgotten I learned from you until I was looking through, um, my this my 2020 calendar. I keep a paper calendar for the Dana Del Val stuff that I do, and, the first thing that I have in it is my day that I spent last last January 1st with you, and we went through these beautiful questions. I clearly wrote a lot, but
Yeah.
here's here's what I loved. It was a whole course. I don't know, it was an hour or 2 hours on intentionality, and I had forgotten that I wrote this, and when I remembered it, or when I came across it, I was so overwhelmed with the gift of getting it again. And what you taught me that I really want everybody else to take away from this conversation, above and beyond everything else you've shared, is you helped me realize that I could change this sentence. I need to fill in the blank to I get to fill in the blank. So, I
Beautiful.
need to lose weight. I get to be healthy, or however you want to think of it, coming from a place of abundance and the gift of it, as opposed to um lacking and a desperation around it. That was really, I remember so clearly learning that in my time with you last year, at the start of this year, and thinking that is such an important, and again, little shift, but boy, does that make all the difference. So if you find yourself saying, I need to do this, this, and this, how might you shift it to, I get to do this, this, and this? It's a much more joyful, playful, curious way to go into the world.
And what a powerful thing to share at the end of the year as we transition into a new. Thank you for sharing that, because I had forgotten about
Ye-
that. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that day, I mean, it was only, we're only 3 days away from when we did this, but it feels like that was about 46 years ago. So it's been an interesting year.
Yeah. Wonderful. Gosh.
Well, Rashmir, thank you so, so much for joining me. Happy New Year. And I so look forward to staying in touch and to cheering you on from my side of the pond, and just finding ways that we can continue to connect.
Me too, Dana. And not just Happy New Year, but happy birthday to you, I think, for tomorrow, right? So have a
Yes,
wonderful day.
absolutely.
And
Thank you
absolutely,
so
I
much.
look forward to swapping and sharing wisdoms through the coming year as well.
Excellent. Everybody else, I don't know yet what time I'm going to be on tomorrow. I'll post it. I'll try to post the right time. You know, I'm 6 hours off, so it's threw me a little bit today, but I will be on live sometime tomorrow to wrap this whole extraordinary project up. Rashmir, thanks again so much. Everyone else, I'll see you tomorrow.
I don't know.